Greetings. Today I'm going to take you all the way back to September 11th, 1777. The original 9/11. General Howe was marching on Philadelphia. General Washington felt that his best chance of stopping the British was along the Brandywine Creek. The two major crossings after Parkerville were Chad's Ford and Jones Ford. General Howe had divided his attacking forces. He had Knyphausen attack directly, and Cornwallis come in after a grueling march of 20 plus miles, having already crossed the Brandywine Creek, coming on down across the creek. Historically, Washington did not react to all the rumors of a British force attacking from this direction. In the Musket Battle scenario, before you set up, the British must determine if they're going to do that flank march, or if they're going to come straight on, or if they're going to come from down here. Once they've determined that, Washington's player deploys his colonial forces. Then the British player commences with his attack plan. Today I'm going to be using the historical attack plan, and let's see if I can do no worse than Washington. Historically, Washington was routed, but he kept the army together and whole. That was a major victory when facing one of the strongest armies in the world. What I'm hoping to accomplish is to give the British a very bloody nose before having to pull back. Now, I'm going to have Knyphausen come on all the way up here, set up his artillery on the hill, and start demonstrating. In other words, letting them know I'm there, but I'm not actually attacking, going to be forcing them to crossing. I'll be entering on the mid-morning turn. That's turn 2. Generals Howe and Cornwallis will be coming in on the 4th turn, which I call the mid-afternoon turn. Now when I play two-handed solo like this, I don't bother with altering turn order, which is a very critical thing you can do when you're playing against another player. You roll to jump ahead if you don't get drawn when you wanted to, or to be put back in and pulled later if you're pulled too soon. First drawn is Washington. Nothing has happened yet, so Washington stays. Same with Sullivan, and finally, General Knyphausen is drawn. Last one drawn is General Greene, and he's right here. He holds, but he does send Washington word that the British are approaching. Now the morning burns off as we edge in towards midday. General Knyphausen assembles his forces and moves the artillery up on the hill. Now Washington's command is the only command not yet drawn, so he's drawn now, and can he reach the British artillery? No, they are out of range. And the rest of the British force is behind hill and woods. They hold. As the sun crosses the top of the horizon, moves on towards the afternoon, Washington wonders, are the British going to attack at all? His questions are finally answered as Cornwallis appears. Now Greene is drawn. He holds. And Knyphausen's artillery focuses on the largest collection of colonial forces that they can see, throwing them into disarray. Here we have some initial combat. First contact. Colonial skirmishers facing off against the whole British army, it would seem. They are swept aside, but the British felt their hot lead. And now it's turn 5, late afternoon, and Cornwallis is drawn first. Now if you're playing with another player and you're using the alter turn order rules, you don't want to go first as the attacker, because what's going to happen? You have to deal with the first units you run into, and then they're just going to move away. But you're stuck back here. If they had to move first, they'd have to reset their line. You could get to attack them, and they couldn't do anything about it but take your attack. Cornwallis moves his whole line forward, following the river bank. Now he has to even up with the defenders he's facing. That will look like that. The center of his line will edge forward, because they don't know. I mean, I can look down here and see where everyone is, but they don't know what's up ahead here. Is there a trap waiting for them? The 16th Dragoons cut off the skirmisher retreat. Now in combat, skirmishers cannot retreat. They get one hit, they're eliminated. But if for some reason the British fail to do any hits, they could just run off then. And so I'm moving the Dragoons up to eliminate that possibility. Not knowing where all the Americans are, the Hessian Jagers spin and watch warily. Next is Knyphausen. He's holding, he's demonstrating, and his artillery is continuing its bombardment on the hill. Throwing back Mad Anthony Wayne's regiment. And now General Sullivan is drawn, and he's got a hot mess in front of him. He tells Washington he's going to stay along the Brandywine and begs him to send all that he has. And he's worried about being flanked on the right. General Sullivan moves forward to straighten and steady his line. He anchors his line in the woods, and on his left he has his own regiment and they have skirmishers and light troops out front to break up any British attack. Next is Washington. He's still not sure what the intentions are with this force here. Is this the distracting force, or is this? He doesn't know. He sends Maxwell's and his skirmishers up to Birmingham Hill and has Pulaski and McLean scout out on his right. General Greene reacts quickly. In order to sustain the artillery fire, he has his troops move to cover in the woods and unpacks bags so he can rally his broken troops. And he is ready for the charge. Now the skirmishers here are surely lost, and it's only a matter of what cost they can exact. But they only do 1 damage, and they're facing elite troops, which absorb that 1 damage. And they surrender. And now it's dinner time. Turn 6. The one saving grace that Washington has is that there was such a delay in the British attack. The British don't have much time to do what they've come to do. Will the lateness of the hour save them? All right. To Washington's advantage, Cornwallis has been drawn first again. He orders his dragoons to ride around towards Birmingham Hill and get behind the colonials. Everyone else he orders forward. And now Washington responds. Greene asks for support as he is getting hammered by the artillery. He sends Nash's North Carolinians across the river to sneak in behind. Greene rallies his right. Now sometimes it's asked, if you're going to get protection from a river or any form of cover, how close do you have to be? The answer is, if they have to cross the river within your field of fire, which here they do, and here they do, then you get to claim the river as cover. That's not in the 4.0 rules. That's a recently clarified rule. And now Sullivan is drawn. And he's going to fall back again. Now here you can see, in clear terrain, they had to fall back out of the field of fire of the British here, so they are falling a little farther back. Stevens and Sterling only had to fall back to here. Now there's no LOS because of the woods, and they still have woods as cover. All they would have had to fall back is 1 width, 3/8 of an inch. But that could leave them surrounded. So they all fall back and keep the line intact. And Knyphausen. Now Knyphausen, if you had 2 players, they would know and they would have to deal with that. Since I'm playing double blind solo, I'm saying, no, they didn't know about that guy moving there. But seeing the colonials pull back, Knyphausen decides to let slip the dogs of war. Well, it looks like Knyphausen got word of the colonial troops. I made a command roll for Knyphausen, and he made it, so he knew about it. If he had not made it, this would have been a very short battle and a decisive colonial victory. Now we're going to have the first real combat of the day. Now one of the changes in the order of battle with 4.0, the brigade units, is there are some tools that are available to us now that weren't available before.
Now we have elite detachments.
Ferguson's Scotsmen with their 2-handers have been reduced to a skirmish unit. An elite skirmish unit, which means it ignores the first hit against it. You need to get 2 hits to eliminate them. Now they've all crossed a river in field of fire of enemy units, so we have the river crossing bonus. Ferguson and his Zweihanders. They are simply eliminated. The drive on Muhlenberg's men in the center. Disaster. Muhlenberg's men caused a little damage, but then they just collapsed and ran. And how does Mad Anthony Wayne do? Stern's Hessians drive them back, but at a cost. Now here I'd like you to note how bleak Greene's position looks. Can he salvage it, or should he bail? Over here we have skirmishing dragoons. First, the Hessian Jagers. The fighting is intense but inconclusive. McLean on the 16th Dragoons. McLean's dragoons are wiped out. Now Pulaski's dragoons did a damage on these Jagers last turn, but they're elite, so they ignored that one. However, now they're ripe for elimination. But the colonial dragoons get wiped out. First drawn is Washington. He sends word to have Nash push hard, which Nash does. Nathaniel Greene rallies his troops. He pulls Whedon's men back, but leaves them in a threatening position. General Knox's artillery opens up on the British on the hill, and with a devastating volley rakes Grant's men. General Cornwallis orders his men forward. He calls forward his artillery train in bags. When the 16th Dragoons reach the top of the hill, they spot the colonial bags. Now the bags are contacted. Washington has already been activated. Sullivan is still there, but he's not going to be able to react to that. But let's finish out this turn and see what happens. Next is Nipphausen. He'd like to unpack bags, but he won't do that with the enemy in his rear. He orders Grant's men, though they're spent, to attack, and calls his light troops back to protect the bags. While those men are calling to drive forward on the bags, he smells a trap, tells them to hold, set up a good defensive position. Now it's General Sullivan's turn. Again, he grudgingly gives ground. Now you might say, hey wait, how can General Sullivan, without actually doing any combat, have held up this whole British advance? But you have to understand what's going on in the pub battle system. He's taken a page from Greene's playbook and is executing a fighting withdrawal. So while it looks like they're moving this far and stopping and they're moving away, what's actually going on is the colonials are keeping up a steady barrage and slowing down and frustrating the British advance. And that's what they've done all day. And all of this would have been successful, save for the dragoons contacting the bags. Now the bags aren't unpacked, but they have already moved, so it's the same thing. The bags stay there and are overrun by the dragoons. So some Hessians and some Scotsmen have paid Washington's bill today. I was okay with that. The colonials have lost some of their light troops and their dragoons. The 2 dragoon skirmishers and a couple of blocks of skirmishers took it on the chin today. But no doubt they'll be back in some form. So there you have it. After dinner, in the evening, the dragoons break through into the colonial rear, and the colonial army panics and routes off the board. Gentlemen, that was an excellent battle. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And hey, if you have any questions about how the system works, or any comments about the video or the system, please let me know in the comments below. Oh, and if you do have questions about how the system works, there will be a link in the description where I explain in quick and dirty terms how you play musket battles. And as always, game on!